Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. My hearty congratulations to Patrick Harvey for giving us the opportunity to discuss this important subject. He said he wants a bit of excitement and passion, so let me just start with some. I was a rather sickly young kid, so I read a lot of books because I was at home a lot of the time. And one of the early books I read, the first political book I read, was a biography of Lloyd George when I was about 7. And I found it fascinating because it had excitement and passion. The passion was that his mistress was Frances Stevenson at age 7. I didn't quite understand what that meant, but it was certainly something to do with passion, and it was interesting. In those days, of course, the press were less interested in the private lives of politicians, and he conducted an affair with Frances Stevenson that extended over 45 years. And eventually married her just before he died, after his wife had died. First election I participated in was the 1961 East Fife by-election, when Sir John Gilmer won the seat for the Tories. I was out campaigning for the Liberals, and as a result, a few months later, joined the SNP in the Duncan Institute in Cooper, where 25 of us 15, 16, 17-year-olds joined our first political party. So getting the youngsters engaged is not new. There's a bit of a cycle to it. Hopefully, however, we're in an upward cycle that continues. Now, of course, getting involved in public life can happen at a very early age. Mary, Queen of Scots, was 8 days old when she became Queen, when James IV, her father, died after she was born in the Linlithgow Palace. But I think her engagement with politics was probably pretty minimal. Now, the motion that's before us, a lot of interesting things. Consensus for 16 and 17-year-olds. The online survey that's been done of young people shows that 8.5% are opposed to it. Only 8.5%. So I think we can now say, without risk of much contradiction, that giving our youngsters the vote is a pretty much general thing, a settled will. Now, looking again at the survey, how to register, because it's the very first time we're registering people of this age, and there were some special issues around data protection and so on and so forth. 50% of people, according to that survey, got information at the schools. And I think the schools were a very important part of the campaign in ensuring that people were informed. Now, there was variability in the engagement of schools. I think, to some extent, the campaigns nationally had shortcomings on both sides of the argument. And by the way, in my constituency, I was, and during the campaign remained, and still am friends with those who espoused and campaigned for a different viewpoint. Politics, at least, can be conducted gentlemanly in Banff and Banffshire and Bucking Coast. I think both sides didn't realise the extent to which we would empower and activate grassroots. And in many places, we found that schools were trying to work with national bodies when the real energy of the campaign was in quite a plethora of small locally based bodies. And schools found that difficult to engage with. The pattern of politics has changed, and the old methods were being applied. Schools played it safe. If they couldn't get someone from both sides of the argument, they were cancelling debates. And I think that was fairly disappointing. Now, Tam Bailey, the Commissioner for Children and Young People, particularly points to what the Scottish Youth Parliament did through its Aye, Nay, Maybe campaign. And I think it's important that young people themselves reach out to other young people. And if we look at the survey, we find overwhelmingly that was the source of information for young people who voted. In other words, their own peer group. And I think that should be no surprise to us. Returning to Lloyd George, my great hero as I approached my 70th birthday in 1908, Lloyd George, of course, introduced the first national pension, entitled as a matter of age, 5 shillings a week for 17-year-olds. Well done, Lloyd George. Well done, the Liberals, for encouraging me to get involved in politics. Their loss that I chose to join the SNP because of their manifest and obvious shortcomings.